So I want you to imagine the scene. It's 4 a.m. The temperature is minus 25 degrees Celsius. I cannot feel my face or my fingers. I'm at Gorak Shep, the last human outpost before Everest Base Camp. Elevation 17,600 feet. I haven't slept. The air is impossibly thin. My body is broken and battered. Most of the team are suffering with AMS, acute mountain sickness. Many have already been turned around or given up. The favorite to win the race has actually been already helicoptered back to Kathmandu because he's dying from HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema. Tensions are high. The fear is palpable. My body battery on my Garmin watch reads 5%. According to said watch, I am extremely fatigued. And the day and the race hasn't even started yet. I'm in the most extreme environment I've ever been. I'm about to run the most extreme race of my life. I'm the most exhausted I've ever been. Welcome to the world's highest obstacle course race, followed immediately by the world's highest ultramarathon. From Kalapatar to Namche Bazaar, it's a 3-kilometer obstacle course, topping out at just under 19,000 feet, and then 30 grueling miles with 15,000 vertical feet of elevation along some of the harshest terrain in the world. Now, you might be thinking, why? Like, what is wrong with you, dude? And the reality is, I actually don't know. I am seeing a therapist, so there's that. And I get, not everyone wants to do these kind of crazy races. But one thing I do know is that we all face obstacles. We all have our own mountains to climb and pain that we're dealing with. Whether that's the pain of a difficult divorce or a relationship struggle or the loss of a loved one, starting a business, mental health challenges, we all have mountains to climb and obstacles to overcome. Life is hard. I don't need to tell you that. And perhaps you, like me, like how I felt at Everest Base Camp, maybe you feel even right now the way I felt, like you're going to give up, like it's just too much, like you're never going to make it. Maybe you're even considering throwing in the towel on the business, on the relationship. Can I just say this? It's not over. I absolutely believe there is more inside of you, there is more for you, and there is more around you than you could ever know. But in order to embrace that more, we have to learn to embrace the pain. That's the first lesson that I have for you from my Everest experience, and the first of 3 counterintuitive pieces of advice that hopefully I want to share with you today that you can take into whatever mountain or whatever obstacle that you might be facing right now so that you can come out stronger on the other side. You know, the first part of that obstacle course race was probably the toughest thing I've ever done. Like I said, the course was only 3 kilometers long, the first part, but in that 3 kilometers was a mile of elevation. Going straight up that mountain, Kalapatar, was literally pure hell. It was dark, the wind was howling, my legs were burning, trying to breathe felt like trying to breathe through a thin straw. My fingers felt like they were going to explode from frostbite. And then to add insult to injury, there was a 20-kilogram sandbag carry at the top with rocks in it, and the rocks cutting into your shoulders. One of the racers on the way up collapsed next to me and began convulsing. I had to continue going. I later found out that his oxygen sats dropped below 60% and he had to be carried down. See, that's the thing up there. When things go wrong, they go wrong quickly. Somehow I managed to get to the top and make my way back down again to the obstacle course race, which I managed to get through not too much problem until we got to the warped wall, this thing. Now at normal altitude, this would be pretty easy for me to be able to do, but at that altitude, after that climb, trying desperately to fill my lungs with whatever air I could suck out of the oxygen out of the air, that wall felt like a mountain to me. So here's a short video of me taking on the wall. Unfortunately, we don't have the sound, but take a look. It's probably a good thing there's no sound because I may have let out an F-bomb at the top there. And I'm a pastor, so that wouldn't have been very good. But that shout was pure adrenaline and gratitude. The obstacle course was over, and now it was on to the ultra marathon. I still had a very, very long way to go. In his famous poem, Robert Frost writes, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. I think in our culture today, the road most traveled is the road of comfort and convenience. Too often in life, we're tempted to take the easy option, the path of least resistance, and sometimes that's okay, but more often than not, shortcuts lead to deep cuts, or long delays, or dead ends. It turns out the path of least resistance is a terrible teacher. You know, in our culture, we tend to see pain only in the negative. And so it's a pretty natural response then to avoid pain at all costs. But what if I told you that pain is a gift? That pain can actually be the greatest catalyst for growth and transformation and resilience and empathy. Author Donald Miller, one of my favorite authors, he believes that every great story ever told has 3 basic components. A character who wants something and overcomes conflict to get it. That's it. That's the template of every great story. Gladiator, The Matrix, Shawshank Redemption, Cinderella, even Barbie. But here's the catch. The template for a great story is also the template for a great life. As Donald, without pain, without conflict, there simply is no story. Think about it. Listen to what Donald writes in his book. He says this: if you watched a movie about a guy who wanted a Volvo, no offense any Volvo drivers, and worked for years to get it, you wouldn't get excited. You wouldn't cry at the end when he drove off the lot testing the windshield wipers. You wouldn't tell your friends you saw a beautiful movie or go home and put a record on to think about the story you just seen. No, of course not. The truth is, you wouldn't remember that movie a week later. Nobody cries at the end of a movie about a guy who wants a Volvo. But we spend years actually living those stories and expect our lives to be meaningful. The truth is, if what we choose to do with our lives won't make a story meaningful, it won't make a life meaningful either. I think deep down, we all know that great stories are told with pain, but too often we're unwilling to embrace that pain and therefore the greatness of the story that we're living in. Telling a great story with your life sounds amazing and exciting and wonderful, and we love to post about it on social media. But here's the truth. When it comes down to the actual work involved, we don't want to do it. But unfortunately, joy costs pain. And I think this is where most of us give up or turn around. It's where I wanted to turn around on Everest. So here's the big question. It's not my own, but it is a great question. Could it be that the difference between where you are and where you want to be is the pain you're unwilling to embrace? Could it be? Is it that the time you're unwilling to put in, the wrong you're unwilling to admit, the counselor you're unwilling to see? Maybe that is all that is standing between the you that you are and the you that you want to be. In other words, maybe the magic you're looking for is in the pain you're avoiding. So that's the first lesson. Embrace the pain. For the second lesson, I need to take you back to the marathon. And this is hard for me to describe because normally a marathon would take me around 3 hours. This took me 9.5 hours. My brother-in-law asked me afterwards, dude, why did it take you so long? I was like, bro, because I was running over this. This is not like a normal road run. The technicality of the terrain, the altitude, 15,000 feet of descent, but another 6,000 feet of ascent, your ankles constantly roaring, legs and lungs on fire. And for almost that entire time, I did not see a single other human being. For hours on end, it's just you and the merciless mountains. And that may freak some people out, but I actually loved it. I put my earphones in, and I just kept running. Worship music for the downhills, hip-hop for the uphills. That's a true story. I'm telling you, that's a tip right there. People have asked me, how did you do it? What made the difference? And I've kind of pondered that because I definitely wasn't the fittest. I wasn't the most experienced or the strongest there, but quite to the contrary. But I'll tell you what I was. I was the most pedantic. I was obsessed over the little details. And we'd been coached before, make sure your lips don't get chapped. Make sure you apply sunscreen. The sun's brutal up there. Never expose your neck to the wind. Make sure you layer correctly. Keep your toenails and fingernails clipped and clean. And at the time, I was like, honestly, do those things really make a difference? I mean, and I thought, but they did. They absolutely did. So many of the team members, their lips got chapped and cracked, which created infection, prevented them from getting the calories in, which then affected their performance and their sleep. Those who didn't layer correctly would overheat and sweat and then take their jackets off. And when the wind chill hit them, they would get chilled. And once that chill gets into your bones up there, it's hard to shake. All these small things added up and gave me, I believe, a slight edge. An edge that in those kinds of environments, and extreme environments, makes all the difference. So that's the second lesson I have for you for conquering whatever mountains or obstacles are in your way is this. Do the small things. Craig Rochelle says, it's the small things that no one sees that results in the big things that everyone wants. It's the small investments made consistently over a long time that have the biggest payoff, right? And that is true in every area of life, whether it's business, whether it's marriage, whether it's parenting, whatever it is. My wife and I, we've been married for 18 years this year. Usually when I tell people that, they look at me like, dude, how old were you when you got married? But I am a little older than I look. But here's what I've learned in 18 years of marriage. It's not the big holidays or the extravagant gifts that have made the big difference. Or the wedding rings, clearly. It's the little things that have made the biggest impact. The kiss when you get home. The holding of hands. The stacking of the dishwasher. Can I get an amen, ladies? Okay. The saying of those two important words. I'm sorry. And I know it tastes like vinegar coming out of your mouth, men especially. But these are the things that over time add up and build a lasting foundation. When it comes to living a life of passion and purpose, too often I think we get overwhelmed by all the things we want to do and change and fix that we become paralyzed. And it's all too much and we don't know where or how to start. And we fall into the trap of believing that in order to see big results, then I must be doing big changes. I'm here to tell you that simply isn't true. It's the small things that no one sees that results in the big changes that everyone wants. How do you climb a mountain? One step at a time. 34 people started the world's highest marathon. 4 finished. And these were all hardcore people, ex-Navy SEALs and Marines. And here I was, a random pastor from Durban. Yeah. When I started running the marathon, I wasn't even sure I would make it. I had a million doubts running through my mind. What if I break my leg? What if I get lost out here in the mountains? What if I'm just not strong enough? But then while running, I had my pause moment. And a new question came into my mind. Hey, Tom, what if it works out? What if it goes well? What if I have the race of my life? What if I use all this pain to my advantage? And that night at 5:21 p.m. in the dark, nearly 11 hours after starting the obstacle course race, I crossed the finish line of the Altitude OCR World Championships in second place. T.S. Eliot says this, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. And that day, deep in the Himalayan mountains, I found out just how far I can go. And I came out realizing that I can, and you can, and we can go a lot farther than we give ourselves credit for. We all have mountains to climb and obstacles to overcome. But in order to do that, we have to learn to embrace the pain, to do the small things, and then my final counterintuitive piece of advice, stop dreaming. That's different. Let me explain. The world and our Instagram feeds or TikTok feeds are full of this idea of follow your dream. As in, follow your dream, babe. Just do it. You can do it. If you can dream it, you can do it. You be you. It's simply not true. I'll tell you, lots of people have dreams, but lots of people's dreams are not coming true. Why? Because dreams don't come true, they are made true. Our dreams do not exist fully formed out there, and all we have to do is find it. We do not find a life of passion and purpose. You build one. And you build one by being brave, by being curious, by being humble. You build it when you pick yourself up again for the third time, for the fourth time, for the 100th time, and keep moving in the general direction of north. When I was 14 years old, my counseling teacher told the class to write down a bucket list. And I wrote down a list and I called it 100 things to do before I die. I still have that list, and to date I've done 63 of the 100. Visit Everest Base Camp was one of them. Now, I know I'm not going to get all of them on the list because one of them was join the Mile High Club. And I was 14, guys, when I wrote the list, okay? But the Everest dream, unless, okay. Just checking, worth a shot. The Everest dream was a dream that was 26 years in the making. And so holding that trophy and getting to share that moment with my wife in Kathmandu was a moment I'll never forget. I even got a tattoo to kind of mark the moment, and the tattoo is based off of one of my favorite quotes. He says this: all men and women dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind awake to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, that they may act their dreams with open eyes to make it possible. So when I say stop dreaming, what I mean is don't just dream at night. Be dreamers of the day. Be dangerous men and women and work to make your dreams a reality. We live in a world that will try to knock those dreams out of you, but don't let it, because you and I were not built for a life of mediocrity. Let me close with this. It's an ancient Hebrew parable. It says this: come, said the teacher, let us go up a mountain. So we did. There was nothing easy about it. I had to rest several times to catch my breath. Finally, we made it to the top. Look at that, he said, pointing to the panorama before us. It was worth the climb. Do you know what it's called in Hebrew, what we just did? Torture, I asked. No, it's called aliyah. It means the going up or the ascent. And when you read in the Holy Scriptures of people going to Jerusalem, you'll see this word aliyah, up, used. Not just because of the physical terrain, but because Jerusalem is the holy city. And so to go to Jerusalem is to make an aliyah, the upward journey. A spiritual people must make a spiritual journey. What's the journey, I asked? Your life, said the teacher. Your entire life is the aliyah. It is to be an upward journey. And every day you'll be given choices. Every choice will give you the chance to go lower, to stay the same, or to go higher. Choose the higher path, even if it's harder. Take the higher step, and then your life will be an aliyah. Thank you.